David Oates. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a reverse speech guy. So
Okay, yeah.
Ah,
yeah,
sounds good. We were just talking about that this morning.
yeah, I've been really getting into it because, and
Hmm.
so he's coming on. He actually, like, he coined the term. He invented this
It,
term, reverse speech.
and he's an Aussie, is he?
He's an
Is
Aussie,
he
yeah.
older now? Because I've seen some clips, like, but I think they're from the 90s, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah. Well,
talking
I
about
mean,
it.
he's been doing it for like 50 years, and
Yeah, wow, okay. Yeah, right.
he's had like lots of governments and intelligence agencies that have seconded his work and stuff.
He was spreading the word that rock and roll was the devil's music, and if you play records backwards mixed in amongst the gibberish, you could hear extra messages that were supposedly demons speaking to you. So I had a whole bunch of scared and frightened teenagers on my hands. I'm a natural skeptic, and I immediately went home that night and rewired some of my equipment to play the tapes in reverse and to show the kids the next morning, well, listen, look, I play this hit backwards, there ain't nothing there. Much to my surprise, I played the record backwards and I heard a very clear and intelligent English phrase. I thought, oh my, gee whiz. I ran it back again and there it was. I went and called one of my friends and asked him over to see me, asked him to come over and played it in reverse without telling him what to hear, and he also heard the same thing. Checked the soundtrack for intentional insertions. This track has been manipulated with, was the obvious thing that first came to my mind. I did oscilloscope checks and some computer waveform checks and found the soundtrack to be quite pure and untainted. The next 2 or 3 months I played back the majority of my musical collection at the time, which consisted of a range of rock and roll to gospel to love songs, country and western, and found a wide cross-section of reverse messages that normally related directly to the theme of the song. If the song was about the occult, then you would find reversals about the occult. If the song was about gospel music, you would find reversals about gospel, praising God. Well, it depends on the integrity of the gospel artist, of course. If it was about love, you would find reversals about love. Some very basic questions came to my mind. It was obvious that there was no intentional manipulation. These reverse phrases were occurring as a direct result of the way the speaker or the singer at the time was constructing his sounds of speech. In other words, the peculiar phonetic rhythms and patterns to his voice. I could find no research anywhere being done into reversed soundtracks. This puzzled me somewhat. I would have thought that a phenomenon as widespread as this would have at least been looked at at some level from an academic viewpoint. About a year later, I moved on to normal human speech. I remember the night quite well, and we had a few people over and someone said to me, well listen David, why don't we record our room conversation and play it in reverse? And then my reaction was, get out of here, play a conversation backwards. We played the room conversation in reverse, and sure enough, right mixed in amongst the gibberish about once every 30 seconds were very clear and direct, intelligent statements that were a reflection of what the speaker was thinking and feeling at the time. It seemed to me impossible that we could speak in such a way that we're delivering 2 messages simultaneously. And for the next 2 or 3 years I spent thousands of hours analysing tapes, finding cross-references and patterns, and by the time 1987 came around, I had really discovered so many common factors to this whole phenomenon that there had to be something real to it. Then in beginning of 87, I remember I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it was like something just clicked. And then I thought, this is another form of communication. It has to be. And I coined the phrase reverse speech and wrote the very first draft of my theory. It basically states that the process of spoken communication is twofold. As all of us are communicating with each other, we are constructing the sounds of our speech in such a way that we are delivering 2 messages simultaneously. One is coming forwards from the conscious mind, which is how I'm speaking to you now, and the other one is coming in reverse from the unconscious mind. Well, many of you have had experiences where you have been speaking to people and you, within the first 3 or 4 sentences, you get a gut feeling that there's something more than what this guy's telling you. Like he's either telling you the truth or he's telling you a lie, or there's something extra. A lot of us call that intuition. It is my contention that the existence of the reverse speech process explains many aspects of human intuition. I've conducted numerous independent blind scientific tests to independently verify the phenomena. There's just not enough time in the hour I've got here to cover that.
But some of the interesting stuff that he found is like reverse speech actually comes from the right hemisphere of the brain. And what we call intuition, when someone's saying something but in reverse they're saying something else, we're like, oh, I don't know about this person because they'll do the reverse, and it's a contradiction. So we can pick up what we know as like intuitive or authenticity from someone because of what we're hearing in reverse.
Wow.
And so he said, this is when you will get that natural hunch of intuition that this person's being authentic because you're hearing.
Right.
But then he also said he's done ones on babies, and before they develop language, they are talking in reverse. So there'll be a baby going boo 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 ga ga ga, and it's like, I want this, and you can hear it very clearly.
No
So
way.
Wow, I've never
That's
heard that.
crazy.
That
So
is
what-
cool.
So we've got so many questions for him because, I mean, yeah, I've only looked into his stuff, but it's going to be really cool because it brings up this whole, like the mirrored reality that there's
Yeah.
two things.
Yeah.
The
Everything
unconscious.
inverted.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I guess that's kind of some of the stuff I've been looking at.
Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah.
language aspect's fascinating. Cam and I have had an amazing last 2 weeks. We've aligned with some of the highest level 5D conversations we've had thus far this lifetime. And it's all about the shift in language. Like the next level of the game is a complete cleanup of our use of language. And like ultimately, it's about getting to a point of clarity and agreement founded by unity consciousness. So, and there's so many ways. So it's all like about splitting all the words apart, because in this inverted overlay, they've joined all the words together and then created inverted meanings out of words. But when you tear them apart into their original 2 words, they mean something totally different. And it's about getting rid of all the lazy language that covers up, that creates confusion, like don't, won't, couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, something, sometimes, nothing. All those words we use constantly to basically try to mean something, but don't say what we're actually trying to mean. So it's like dropping all this confusion in language and getting to a point of total clarity of what we're saying and then coming to agreement. And that was like a profound shift in the use of communication. This week for us has been fantastic like that. And I can see how the new level of the game, the new level of being back as sovereign manifestors again, like, and out of the murk and mire of this, like, perpetually pushing forward this truth agenda, if you like, and getting caught up in it so much, is like a shift in language. And like we also aligned with a conversation about moving everything from the public to the private, so that whole trust law situation, and then from the private into total sovereignty out of the system altogether. Like the next 2 layers of the game as us as individual humans getting sovereign, and it's all to do with fucking language.
Becoming more conscious of the words that you use then.
Yeah, and that's what it's all. It's having intention about what you want to say, right? Because so many people are just sort of very fluffy, right? How are you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah, that's okay. You're not really saying anything, right? So I guess when you're focusing on it, it makes you express yourself better, right? It's like when you talk to elders and you ask them a question and they'll just sit there and kind of ponder before they answer. But when you're out in like society, it's like you ask something and people, they're answering before you even got your words out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an example as simple as like we were talking this morning. By the way, everyone, I'm on a shit computer. This audio shit. You just have to suck it up for this edition. I can't do anything about it, so just suck it up. It's like we were looking at the word. So if you say something like, "I don't like my kids watching television," right? Is this a sentence, right? But you have to get rid of the word "don't." So what are you actually trying to say? Like, what is the truth of what you're actually trying to say? The more accurate thing would be to say, I think television brainwashes my children. would be more accurate of the sentiment. Why don't I like them watching television? What am I trying to say there? But if you take out the don't, you have to reiterate the sentence that you're trying to get clarity on. Um,
Yeah, there's also that thought that they say that your subconscious and your mind doesn't know what a negative is. So if
Mm,
you're saying to yourself, I don't like television, it's hearing I like television.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, but it's like the subtlety of understanding how we've been completely, I mean, literally spellbound by this use of language on this realm. Like, and actually to strip it all back, to separate it all up again, and to present it in its original form changes our whole presentation of reality, our whole presentation of our experience of reality. Like,
Hmm,
basically, it's the difference between being enslaved and being free. But like, it's just so
totally.
extraordinary that we haven't, as a truth community, like, jumped on this so long ago.
Mm,
You
yeah,
know,
we're talking slave language. Like for example, we've been talking about resets a lot in
mm.
the last 4 years, 5 years, and the legal definition of reset is the receiving or harboring of an outlawed person.
Say that again.
Um,
Receiving, receiving.
the receiving or harboring of an outlawed person.
Wow.
That is what reset means legally. So just in the like we can see that they've got a completely different language, right? And we've got this, and I've said it so many times. There's just not enough words in the English language, right? There's not enough describing words, and it's like we've got this poor form. So we need to rediscover the words, right? And try and be more
Yeah,
eloquent.
that's why we get tongue-tied. How many times do you have a conversation and you almost have to intuitively. I'm like this with someone I know well, and she's always like, "I know what you're saying, Dale," and I'm like, "I know you know what I'm saying, but I can't say it." Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no, yeah,
Yeah, there's not
there's
enough
like a
describing
blockage.
words.
There's a blockage there, and I think it's
yes,
because we've grown up on English, which is a whole other conversation, like where that language
yeah,
come from. But like, there's this blockage there that we can't express ourselves. And you're right with the indigenous too. Like they talk so slow and they ponder their answer.
Mm,
Even what's his name? Jordan Peterson's very good at that. As much as he's a wanker, but he's like you can see him processing when you ask him a question. He's like actually taking it in. I've actually been listening to Michael Tazarian a bit lately too, and he speaks so slow. Then he'll have a 10-second pause, but he's got to have the right interviewer. Because if it was me, I'd just be.
yeah, I know. I'm a
It's
bit
like,
like that too.
you need to know like when
Need to
someone
slow
actually
down.
hasn't continued their thought process, there's still more coming through. But we kind of we jump in. But then there's the whole censorship aspect of it too, right? Because like what is because the whole 1984 thing, like what is
mhm,
like you're like killing things when you're destroying words or saying this word's
yep.
off bounds or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, and then we think about the language within the truth community online. Like that's YouTube. Like everything about our media platforms are run by our invaders, basically, are completely designed, innovated, and controlled by them. The language that we use within the truth community is controlled language.
Yeah, it is.
We have picked up on so many words that have been offered to us. In our ability to communicate, they have filled in the language. So if you think of all the words that we would classically use, like reset, that's just like completely just ingrained now into the consciousness. Like we have the truth community has been handed narrative spells. We've been
Script. Yeah.
handed our own set, which is so ironic since we are the truth community. And yet we've been spellbound by the language given to us as the truth community.
So what are we
Mm.
saying instead of reset now? What's your word, Cal?
Well, I mean, I always say next level of the game, man.
Next level.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is your
Level.
thing. That is your
yeah, we are. And like the last show on Mulaney, we definitely like next level of the game. Definitely. And Adele, everyone's been asking me, are you making the September gig in Tabulin? Are you overseas?
of it. Yeah. Well, what's the date?
The 5th to the
5th to the
7th of
7th.
September.
Yeah, I've got to check. We've got like a family camping thing, but I think it's late September that I've got that. Yeah, okay, I'm in. I
Oh,
think I'm
good.
All
See,
right. Dale
publicly it's on
confirmed he'll
record.
be there. Let's just sell a
Excellent.
few more tickets.
Important
Yes.
object.
Link below, guys. 5th to the 7th of September. And yes, we'll be doing our show and heaps of other stuff. bands, music, cool stuff, cool people come.
Yeah. Our first bush party.